My name is Greg Stafford. These are day texts where we meet every weekday morning at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to consider a portion of the biblical record or other related texts that involve ancient history or sources of knowledge and wisdom that we can draw upon and use throughout our day, hence day texts. Although some people join us near the conclusion of their day, and so it's a good way to carry with you some positive information and thoughts as you get ready for sleep. And then, of course, you can wake up with the same thoughts until the next day text, or use them however you like. But I find it a good way for us to meet together, for people around the world who share these same ideas and beliefs, to meet together and to talk about some things related to the God Jah, Jesus, and of course how we want to treat other people. So we're working our way through the New Testament, and we're in the letter of 2 Timothy. If you want a little bit more information about the letter itself, when it was written or likely written, and some of the texts that we have that transmit this letter to us, then look at the first video. Each first video for a new book or letter that we review, I will try to give some background information and textual information so that we have an understanding of what we're reading in terms of its historical context. But we're in chapter 2, and what I do is I group together texts that I've translated. So I'm using the Great Message translation, and I group them together in the way that I think is best. What I'm going to start doing, you may notice that the date text is embedded in the description field. So yeah, I'm still working my way through the best way to do all these videos, and so I'm going to try different things, but I want to make sure that we're all sort of seeing the same thing at the same time. So I think this way, keeping the live streams going versus resetting them and then re-uploading them afterward, and then embedding the date text in the video as we're discussing it, will make it easier for people to get the information and to review it while we're discussing it, versus waiting for me to post it after we're done. So, and then I'm going to also start posting or embedding the day text at least a day beforehand. So like this evening, I will go ahead and in the reminder for the live stream for this day text, these day text shows, I'll put the day text for the next day in the prior evening, so that you have a little time to look at it, and then if you have some questions, this way you'll have time to prepare them versus coming up with them and trying to put them in the chat when you first realize what the day text is. So I'm going to try to give you a little bit more advance notice for those reasons. Okay. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining me again. So let's get right to the day text for today, which is 2 Timothy chapter 2. And I'm going to read verses 2 through 10. I could have broken this one up into two different texts, but the more I kept reading it, it just seemed to go together to this point. So let me go ahead and read it. We'll make a brief application, highlight a few aspects of the verses, and we'll be on our way. All right, starting in verse 2 of 2 Timothy chapter 2. Here's what Paul writes to Timothy, a young Greek Christian. He says, "What things you heard from me through many testimonies must be given to trustworthy people, who will also be ready to teach others. As a beautiful warrior of Christ Jesus, you must experience suffering. No one competes in a contest. He is not crowned as winner unless he competes fairly." Verse 6, "It is fitting for the grower who works hard to be the first to enjoy his fruits." Okay, verse 7, "You must think carefully about what I am saying, for the Lord will give you comprehending insight into everything. You must remember Jesus Christ has been raised from the dead, from the seed of David, according to my great message, because of which I am suffering to the point of imprisonment as a criminal. Yet the message of God cannot be imprisoned. Therefore, I will put up with everything for the sake of the chosen ones, so they may experience the salvation which is from Jesus Christ with unending glory." I noticed the live stream kind of disconnected there for a moment. So if it ends up that the live stream was interrupted and the recording didn't capture the whole thing after the show, then I'll go ahead and re-upload the video so you have the whole thing. All right, so let's make a few comments on the text here. So you notice some of the metaphors that he uses. He talks about how we could be a beautiful warrior. You know, we talk a lot about not debating, not arguing, not fighting. And we talk about that a lot in relation to what Paul writes elsewhere about not arguing, not debating endlessly. And so here he's talking about being a warrior, but he's not talking about a warrior who just goes out and argues with people all the time. He's talking about someone who stands up for the truth, who proclaims the great message. You can see in verse 9, he says, yet the message of God cannot be imprisoned. And then in verse 8, he says, you must remember Jesus Christ has been raised from the dead, from the seed of David, according to my great message. See, not according to my great debate, right? Paul doesn't highlight here his battles in arguing against others. He's talking about proclaiming the great message. And he's talking about being a warrior in that regard, doing the right things, not just engaging in battle needlessly and throwing your life at risk, figuratively or literally, but in a figurative sense. You don't just rush into every battle because you like to fight. You have to look at what is the objective. What are you trying to accomplish? If the objective is just to fight, well, you're never going to win because you're always going to keep fighting. There'll be no end. The objective has to be met in order for you to win the battle. And the objective in this case is to proclaim the great message. That's it. Proclaim the great message. Proclaim Jah as the true God. Proclaim Jesus as the one he sent forth to free us from sin and death we inherited from Adam and Eve. And treat others the way we want to be treated. That's it. There's the great message. And if you can present it effectively, you are a beautiful warrior for Jesus Christ. And if you compete in a contest, we know, when we see people competing in contests today, sports, what have you, we can appreciate some of the difficulties that are involved with their athletic contests. But if they cheat, if someone cheats, they use performance-enhancing drugs or otherwise cheat, people do not look at that person as the legitimate winner, as the one who competed fairly and who won because he or she was better. See, when you cheat, you're not trying. There's a famous saying. Some people, a radio guy in Southern California, Jim Rome, you would often say, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, which is ridiculous, right? If you're cheating, you're definitely not trying, because the whole idea of trying something is that you do it right, unless the idea behind something is to cheat from the start. It involves cheating, which is ridiculous. And most honorable things don't, if not all. So this idea, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, is absurd. And it just shows that you're really not trying because you're cheating, right? And if you're cheating, you're not. How could you be trying if you're cheating? Right? That's the opposite of trying. That means you basically gave up trying and now you want to cheat and do it a different way, depending on what we're talking about. I'm speaking in general terms here. Paul refers to a contest, a winner being crowned if he competes fairly. But this idea of fairness and cheating can apply in many different areas of life, but it often involves contests because people cheat to win against somebody else, most often. And then he mentions in verse 6 how the grower who works hard should be the first to enjoy his fruits, which makes sense, right? You're working hard, especially if you're a grower in a field, or a farmer. It's not easy work, but it is rewarding if you're patient and you take good care of your crops. So, and then when you work hard and you spend all that time and you take care of the growing of the crops, it's a fitting reward for you to be the first one to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So in the same way, when we work hard for the sake of Jah and Jesus, we should find, because we're essentially all working with the Father as cultivators in his garden, trying to help grow individuals on the vine. But when we see our hard work pay off and we see people growing and becoming a beautiful warrior for Christ, then we feel good. We feel like we've accomplished something because we've helped that person become better so they're not lost and subject to all the different difficulties of the world without any assistance, either from us or from God, or by following Jesus Christ. So these are the kinds of things that we're growing. We're helping people to cultivate this trust and confidence in Jah, and why they can rely on Jesus as a real historical person who came and did the things that Jah taught and told would occur through people like Moses. All right, and then so that's why he goes on in verse 8. He talks about Jesus being raised from the dead, the seed of David, how that's related to, that's the great message essentially. A little more to it, but that's pretty much it. And then he talks about in verse 9 how he's suffering to the point of imprisonment. We learned that yesterday too, as a criminal. So, we're not always going to be appreciated for the things that we do. And some people are, in fact, going to make it very difficult for us if they can. So we should not be surprised if we have to experience suffering. No one wants that, right? No one wants to suffer. But if we're suffering for the sake of righteousness, that's what you do, right? At some point, we're all going to die. At some point, we all have to stand for something. So make sure you stand for the right things, or the things that are honorable, so you don't regret things later, or as you may have to suffer to the point of death. But if you suffer for what's right, that suffering will end, and joy will likely follow. So we trust in Jah for those reasons. Now let's take a look here. Last verse, verse 10. Therefore he says, I put up with everything for the sake of the chosen ones, so they may experience the salvation which is from Jesus Christ with unending glory. I'll put up with everything for the sake of the chosen ones, for the sake of fellow Christians, those whom Christ Jesus came to save, really all of humanity. But since not all of humankind will respond, then we look for those who have been chosen in this way, drawn by the Father to Jesus. But everyone has an opportunity to hear. And so when we proclaim the great message and we teach the things that we have learned, like this and otherwise, then we're helping people to hear that call from the Father. And then we'll see if they respond and if the Father draws them. So everyone is being, like wisdom says in Proverbs, it shouts out from the corners at everyone. And you can see that the message is being proclaimed really throughout the earth in many ways. So everyone has an opportunity either to respond to the message or to the conscience that they have within them that tells them whether or not what they're doing is right or wrong. So focus on what you can do to help other people, better yourself in whatever ways are reasonable without having to disrupt too much. And whatever you do, continue to work whole-souled to proclaim Jah's name and the great message about Jesus Christ. So I'll post this video again. If the live stream didn't, I can see that it's having a few problems, but I don't know that if that means that the video of the live stream will also have those problems once I'm done. So I'll check that, and then either the video will be ready to go once I'm done here, or I will re-upload a copy if there was a problem with the live stream, since I keep a recording on my computer. And then let's see here. Yeah, well, so there's Benzie Roy's making a point about the sports and competition. Yeah, I don't think, people have to choose, right? We cannot decide for other people what to do. That's between them and Jah. But obviously competition, vanity, there are risks with everything, and certainly there are risks with sports. But we let each person decide, and we use the metaphors that we're given here because we can appreciate what is involved with sports. We know that's hard work, even if it's not something we want to devote our entire life to. We can appreciate the human body and what people put their bodies through in order to achieve these physical feats. But like Paul says elsewhere to Timothy, bodily training is beneficial for a little, but godly devotion is beneficial for everything. So we want to take care of our bodies, keep ourselves in good shape, And we can appreciate others who do so as well, but if they're giving all their life to their body, then they're really missing the point of life, right? Is to give our bodies in service to Jah, the one who gave us our body to begin with. Okay, good stuff there. So I will go ahead and complete the video. Thank you all for joining me. I will see you tomorrow for another day text as we continue to work our way through the letter of 2 Timothy. And until then, may you all have a wonderful day or evening, and may Jah bless you. Thank you.